Ahoy, folks, and welcome to a GameXplain discussion on, I guess, technically the future of Nintendo. So obviously Nintendo had their financial report come out recently, and now the Q&A has come out. Well, not fully in English, but translated by various others, and we've already reported on it. So we decided we were going to sit down and discuss exactly what all of this means. I am Tris, I am joined by Joey and Jake, and I'm going to toss it to Jake to give us a rundown of what exactly happened with this, since he did the news update for it.
And here's Jake with the rundown.
Yo, okay, so the rundown. Okay, so yeah, I did the news on it, so let me hit you both with everything we need to know. So what happened here is, like Tris said, we have this translation, and we had President Furukawa, who, according to the translation from VGC, said the question of whether we will be able to just as smoothly transition from Switch to the next generation of hardware is a major concern for us. And kind of goes on to say, we've had this experience with the Wii and the DS, where, you know, the Wii U and the 3DS, those were maybe not super great transitions. So this, yeah, we remember. So this is something that we're kind of like keeping in mind and just being careful and like thinking about and considering. And I think like the thing that we're just kind of like zoning in on here is that it feels like these next gen conversations are, as the days go on, kind of, we're just paring down, we're zoning in, we're getting a little bit closer. And additionally, President Furukawa also said to help alleviate this risk, we're focusing on building long-term relationships with our customers while we continue launching new software on the Switch. We will also provide services that use Nintendo accounts and other IP outside of gaming software. We intend for this to help build a lasting impact with our customers. And I think like when we're thinking about going to the next console, there is this little bit of a concern, especially for somebody like Nintendo, who you never really know what their next thing is going to look like. There's this little bit of a concern of like, man, I as a customer have invested so much in the Switch. Now they've got me paying for this online service. Now they've got me paying for this expansion pack. Is this next thing gonna come out and I'm just gonna be left in the rubble, left in the dust? So I think what I'm hearing here from him is good, because I think it's like we're thinking about this.
Yeah.
We don't want to leave our customers out in the lurch. So good things I think that we're hearing all around here.
In this day and age especially, you can't afford to have a rough transition because with these new consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Series X, it's almost like they're more like expansions of their previous consoles because they're fully backwards compatible except for maybe 10 games on PS5,
right.
Like Joe's Diner, rest in peace. But the Series X on hand's fully backwards compatible, and I think a lot about backwards compatibility because I do think that's the key in this transition, is especially if the next Nintendo console is something like the Switch where it's cartridge based and it is fully backwards compatible. That would make for a more seamless transition. Although then there is the case of the Wii U, which was fully backwards compatible with Wii games, but then there was the case of the Wii was not really the Wii near the end of its life. Nobody really cared about it. Not a lot of people really cared about the Wii at that point near the end of its life. So there was that case there, and people thought the Wii U was just a Wii with a tablet accessory. So I do think now in this day and age, it is important to have a smooth transition. Need I remind you, the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One transition was probably the worst transition in the history of console gaming. But yeah, I do think that's also part of the reason why analysts think there's not going to be a new Switch or a new console rather, next Nintendo successor until 2024. It's because they're really trying to think, how do we do this and how do we do it right?
And we know they've been thinking about this for a while. Like, I think we have reports like last year and the year before. Like, obviously they're thinking ahead to what the next hardware would be, but it's not like it's something that's so far along they're ready to announce it at the drop of a hat. It's a matter of they're always thinking ahead of how to succeed the current thing or the previous thing. And especially with how the Wii U era went, the 3DS era went, it's clear that they're trying to put more thought into it all. And like you were saying, Jake, it's a good thing. It's not concern in Nintendo doesn't know what they're going to do and they're worried about it. It's more along the lines of they're paying careful attention to make sure to do it right. That's what they mean by concern. And it's, you really got to make sure it gets conveyed right in that case. And I mean, when you look back at what happened, yeah, the Wii U was technically a marketing failure because people couldn't tell that it was a new thing. They thought it was like an accessory. And the 3DS started off way too expensive. They had to do the whole price shop, and it took a good year or two before...
listen to Reggie.
Yeah. It took a good year or two before people were on board for either console, to be honest. Like, they had big hits. So then you look at what happened with the Switch, where it went very differently. They had, compared to either of those two, they had big titles in that first year that we were really missing for the previous two. So more than likely, it means they're going to look at how to essentially repeat the first year of the Switch. And I don't mean literally repeat the first year of the Switch, but look at what made it successful in that first year and kind of learn from that lesson and try to do similarly.
Yeah, I mean, I think if like Joey, you were saying that transition, those first couple months, that first year, is really so important in kind of setting the tone for the hardware and even I think its legacy. Because when we think about the Nintendo Switch, I feel its legacy is so tied up in launching with The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. And when you think of these when you think of these systems as consumer products, it really is on the catering to the hardcore gamer at first, because these are the people that are going to be writing about your console and kind of giving it that advertisement through the means of the press. So having those games that we saw at the beginning in the first year of the Switch, we look at Splatoon, Mario Kart, Zelda, Mario Odyssey, these things, these set a tone. So yeah, those first few months are definitely extremely important. And I think even when we look at the Nintendo online subscriptions, I'm sure many people have these subscriptions. I think I saw the number recently; it was outrageous. but I think the people carrying most of the weight here is more of the hardcore gamer, and it's you can't get people invested in these subscriptions and then be like, okay, but this stuff maybe doesn't even really work with the next thing, because then how do you expect me to buy into the next subscription? So I think in terms of backwards compatibility, just the fact that this Nintendo Switch Online subscription exists is a pretty good sign that I will be able to play things like the Octo expansion and things like that on the on the next hardware for sure.
Yeah. Especially with the expansion pack and the fact that there's now multiple tiers of the Switch Online service. They clearly want to do more with it, and I would be shocked if it didn't move into the next console as well and carry over with either a level of backwards compatibility or the right thing is being ported for it to still work.
Now let me ask you both. I'm on team 2024 Nintendo Switch 2. Are we all on the same page there? I really think that we've been hearing about it for so long, but I think that some surprises have helped keep the Switch afloat. The coronavirus and the huge bump from Animal Crossing coming out in that time. I think what we're looking for in terms of when Nintendo announces the official Switch successors, first off, I think it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. Because even though the Switch sales are declining right now, they're still extremely good and very profitable. And announcing a Switch 2 even like 6 months out feels so far. Feels so far to say 6 months of extremely declined Switch sales because of that announcement. So I think we're going to see a quick turnaround. I think what we saw with the Switch was it got announced in maybe January and came out in March.
It was
announced
in October.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of that little. Yeah, with the ice cubes and the Joy-Con. Lives in my mind rent free. So that is like 6 months.
Roughly.
Yeah, so that was about 5, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
5 or 6, something like that. But I'm with you with 2024 also, only because I don't think they can afford to wait any longer than that. When the Switch is discussed, people hate it when people talk about console power, but power does matter, and we're starting to see games kind of not suffer as a result, but you start to notice there are they are really stretching the power of this Tegra X1 processor further than it goes. Like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, as much as I love that game, it's such a good game. You do see those characters off in the distance, running at half the frame rate, even though
even the regular frame rate, it's just 30 frames per second, isn't it?
it is just 30, yeah.
And
but
it bugs me a little bit, Joey. It does. It bugs me. It bugs me a little bit. Like not enough for me to like actively think about it when I'm playing, but every so often I do go, Kirby, my man, you were born in 60 frames. You should die in 60 frames.
I get that, yeah, and I know like the slideshow of the characters in the background, it kind of adds to the little charm of them. But yeah, like Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, that game just chugs on the Switch, and you normally don't expect that from a Nintendo first-party title, but there you go, and it had happened. You still get the games like Nintendo Switch Sports, Splatoon 3 is still going to run at 60 frames per second. But yeah, third-party support is still a thing that matters. It really does matter. Although like Nintendo's first-party games are still going really strong, I will say. But I do think at some point, I don't think the Switch is going to die anytime soon, whatever that means, right? Like
we have too much lined up. We know too much. We still have a freaking new generation of Pokemon at the end of this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Splatoon, that has a reasonably long life cycle for a Nintendo game, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I think we're even seeing more Nintendo games invest in an online service method, from Switch Sports to the upcoming Mario Soccer game.
Yeah.
You know, and so it would kind of be weird to chop these games off a little bit and move on to something new. I think I will say that the graphics and the Switch and that whole situation, there was a point maybe a year and a half ago where that was really getting under my skin, and something recently I feel like it's kind of gotten a little bit under control. Like Legends Arceus, I thought that was smooth sailing. I had no issues with that. Like obviously it could be better. We all want it to be better. But you know, I thought that was okay. And like looking forward, seeing Mario Strikers, seeing Splatoon, these are things I have kind of confidence in. And I think when we look even further beyond that, I think we're all kind of aware of some plans for the Switch that like have been long rumored that have to happen before we can get this announcement of the next thing. You know, we got to see, dare I say, Metroid Prime. like you know what I mean? Like we've got to see Metroid Prime. We've got to see like those rumored Zelda port remake. Yeah, you know, stuff like that. It's even you know, on the third party side, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I feel like we haven't seen that in so long, and that's got to be coming down. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like we need to get through some of these things before we even think about mentioning, like, oh hey, we're working on a such time.
And that's not even mentioning the fact that the Mario Kart DLC is going to go into the end of 2023. Like that means we're set at least that long, because it would not make sense to release new hardware in the middle of that. I mean, I guess it could, because then you can promote it with, like, you know, Mario Kart with all this stuff on it, but especially if it's backwards compatible. But I think they want to ride that out as long as they can. And I'm definitely with you that like 2024 is going to be the year, but I almost see it being like so late in the year that it could be early 2025. Like I see it as something that happens really late, like around the same time frame of the original Switch. Like
that would be
like early, or like maybe you start hearing all the rumors for it, like really start ramping up early in the year, but you don't see it until like the end of the summer at the earliest.
This is shocking to me.
And
Chris.
then this is exactly what I think though. I think we're gonna go 2024, and it's gonna feel like what people started feeling like around like the end of the 3DS, where people are like, okay, like, all right, you know, we're still getting more Switch titles, but come on, we know the next thing's coming soon, come on, and we'll hit like E3 that year. And they'll be like, yes, we have another thing happening, but we're not revealing it here yet. And then it's going to be, you know, any games revealed then are also going to be compatible with it, of course. And
that
then,
would
you know,
frustrate the ever-living heck out of me.
It would be frustrating.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here like, honestly, I kind of just want the next thing like now. I'm going to be honest. Like, I can't wait until 2024.
Joey,
I will.
Would you settle for a Pro? Would you settle for an iteration?
Not at this rate. No. At this point, you need to give us the new thing. Like, it's you had a chance with the OLED. You didn't make it more powerful. Like, it's done. It's time for the next thing. Whether that be a Switch 2 or Nintendo could just go full on Wii U and give us a completely different machine, which wouldn't be smart. I'm just kind of like, I'm ready for the next thing. I really am. I'm just kind of like, and I know I said something about the hardware and how like it needs to be better like soon. I'm not trying to be an alarmist and say Nintendo's done for if they don't like come out with a console soon. But it is just like, I want it now. I want the new thing now, and it's not. There's no good reason for them to announce the new thing now. And 2024 is smart. I don't think if it's until 2025 though, I'm just kind of like, dude, you're taking way too long now.
I think we're gonna see an iteration. I think we're gonna see another model.
Okay.
I think they're weirdos, and I think they like to have their one more model like kind of close to when the next one happens. For like, remember the DSi? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
That was strange.
Yeah.
That was a very strange upgrade.
What was going on with the DSi? I don't know.
Look at all the variants of the 3DS and the 2DS and the news and the new 2DS XL that came out after the Switch was already out, I think. Like, yeah.
Yeah. If there's a new iteration, it can't be like an increase in power.
It won't be. It won't be.
It has to be something like something ridiculous like a docked only Switch.
Yes. It's either going to be that or a what do you call it? Switch Lite OLED.
Switch Lite OLED.
Oh, can I pitch you both on something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, go.
I agree.
I have an iteration in my brain, and maybe this is stupid, but I legitimately am like, okay, it's a Switch Lite OLED, but you can dock it. I know what you're thinking. Jake, that's a Switch OLED. No. It is the one solid form factor, and it's small, and you can dock it.
So you have to buy extra controllers.
Yes, correct. Yes. Like you can dock it. Yeah.
I can see that happening, honestly.
Because so many people have Joy-Con now that like
Or Pro controllers, but yeah.
Or Pro control. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think I think it's a possibility. I really do. I could see that sweet new chassis. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And the catch, it won't come with the dock. You have to buy that dock separate. Just that it can dock. That's gonna be the catch for that.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
I still think it's wild that the Switch Lite is a console that's only $200. That's nuts to me. I forget the Switch Lite exists. And then I'm reminded, oh, hey, there's a version of the Switch you can buy that's only $200. That's wild to me.
Can't play every single thing, but it can play most things, yeah. So I guess to bring up not quite the pitch that you were making there, Jake, but something that's been on my mind for a little bit is to either a new version of the Switch or like a sequel to the Switch, especially if it's backwards compatible. It'll probably need to function a lot like a Switch. And I've been thinking about this for like a good month now, so like what we can get. And I kind of want it to feel like the upgrade from the DS to the 3DS. And when I say that, it's specifically, I want a Switch that
You want a 3D Switch?
No.
Just say
No. I don't want a 3D Switch.
That's where you were going.
No.
I thought that's where you were going.
I meant with like how much extra they add. I want a Switch that doesn't feel like a meet in the middle hybrid of handheld and console. I want a Switch that meets closer to both ends. That when you're playing in handheld mode, you have Street Pass. You have reason to take it out in handheld mode.
Yes.
And when you dock it, it feels more like a powerful console.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's what I want. The one that actually takes advantage of those two ends of the spectrum a lot more.
So are you thinking a smaller handheld form factor and a dock that actually has some power to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So like obviously some games, yes, you would only be able to play when docked. But I think that is a fair sacrifice for that. Because there's so many people that would only play that way, and there's so many people that take their Switches everywhere they go and still get upset they can't Street Pass with their friends, like from the 3DS era. And I think really making something that works to both ends of that and gets Nintendo's charm back to both ends of that, because Nintendo made really charming handheld content on the 3DS.
Yes.
They made and we know they can make really great console content as well. But with the Switch, what you have a lot of is a lot of meeting in the middle. I mean, look at the main menus in the UI for the Switch. That's one of the things we're constantly talking about needing more with. The fact that it's so bare bones. Yeah.
It's frankly it's boring. Like what I miss about the Wii U and 3DS era was the Nintendo charm. That was in their menus.
Yeah.
And like you go on the Wii U eShop, which I still do because hey, newsflash, you can't put your debit card on the eShop in 11 days as of recording this. So get on that. The eShop just has so much charm. Sure, it's really slow and clunky, but I'm thinking like maybe next console they can find a way to make something that looks good, sounds good, and like make it run fast as well.
Yeah.
Because right now it is just like, I remember just booting up the Switch at first and thinking, wow, everything's so snappy and quick, I love it. And now like 5 years later,
It's the same.
It's the same.
I don't miss anything about the Wii U. Nothing about it. Right here, I'm letting you all know. I thought, Joey, swear to God, thought you were gonna say newsflash. I love load times. Like because listen, it is charming, and I like listening to it on YouTube and things like that. But it has no business being on a modern console, and I get it. I get that we're nerds and we like this kooky Nintendo nonsense. But the fact of the matter is that we're dealing in a modern marketplace, a modern app store, all of these. I don't need them making binks and box at me. I just need it to be fast. I just want my download speeds to be good. I feel like before Nintendo starts putting music in this eShop, I need them to figure out like their Wi-Fi cards in their just like that stuff. We're dealing with technology now that is, I think because of the hybrid thing, it's hard for us to really like mark where it is in comparison to other stuff because it still feels novel. So like when that Switch 2 rolls around, it's going to have some technology in it that is going to be, I think, surprising to a lot of us. And it's all that charm, all that stuff we're talking about is so low on my priority list. But what I will say is, part of a handheld video game console is your personal relationship to it. It is that like Game Boy Color, all the different variations. It is like handheld games. You kind of have a more personal relationship with like a Pokemon than you do with like a lot of console games,
Yeah.
And so when we talk about a form factor that could supplement the Street Pass and kind of the handheld nature of a handheld console, this is where I'm ready to buy in. This is where I think there is something that we could do. I really wonder if we will ever see a foldable from Nintendo again. And and now we're starting to see foldables in the phone space.
It's true.
And when you're looking at Switch technology, you can really compare it pretty easily and succinctly to a lot of mobile phone technology. So I wonder if there is some weird Nintendo hardware design that's going to make us go, oh, wow, we can just put that in my pocket. I can just put that in my backpack. I can just... Because even now, it's like throwing that Switch in a backpack is still a little not great.
Yeah, I've recently bought a PlayStation Vita.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I totally regret not buying one 10 years ago.
Vita Nation.
Yes.
Yes, I love the Vita, Joey. I love the Vita. Persona 4 Golden, that's one of the GOATs.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And I just hate that their memory cards are so expensive. But but like I was just thinking, man, I miss a kind of I'm as you can tell, a super nostalgic person over here, right?
Yeah.
But I do miss like that the hand when companies made like actual like little handhelds.
Yeah.
The Switch is great though. Love the Switch. Like it's a great system, right? But I feel like there is some potential in bringing back like dedicated handhelds that fit in your pocket. I wish that Sony, now we're talking about Sony, right? But I do wish like they'd maybe try their hand again at the portable system and do it right this time. I know we're kind of seeing a resurgence of that with the Steam Deck also, even though you cannot fit that thing in anything. Don't know.
Except its own carrying case.
Yeah, because of its own carrying case of reason.
And don't you think that in a way, the next Switch should maybe respond to the Steam Deck rather than being in competition with it? Kind of be like, and this is why we are who we are. Like, I don't want to see Nintendo try to put together a Steam Deck.
I don't want to see that. No.
I don't want that either.
You know what I mean? I would much rather Nintendo try to put together, hey, this is the GBA SP, but for now, baby. Like, I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, give me that. Ooh, yeah.
A Nintendo Switch Micro.
Oh,
That's the
no.
last model.
I'm interested. I want to see it. So, yeah.
My goodness, we've gone off the rails on this discussion so much because it's like there's so much potential on what like the next Nintendo console could be, even though I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement. It's gonna have some form of like Switch variation.
Yeah.
I think it could be just it could just be a more powerful Switch, and that's it. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I hope it's not. I hope, because I do like that Nintendo that does experimenting. Like I don't want this to be their last experiment. I want them to keep experimenting with new stuff.
So, on a similar note to experimenting and doing new things, I'm actually going to use this to transition to a lighter part of all of this, NSO. And we touched upon this a little bit earlier, where, you know, we think NSO will still be compatible with whatever comes next. But, Jake, and I know in the report, part of the conversation about NSO is that they're still looking to do more with it and actually add more to it. And we've seen evidence of that, obviously, over the years with NES, SNES, and the expansion pack bringing N64, Sega Genesis, and obviously, you know, each of these different DLCs being added, like Auto Expansion most recently. So I guess I'd want to go around and see, what do we expect from the future of NSO? Not counting, obviously, the expectation that it'll be there and what comes next, but say there is a new thing for the Switch by end of 2024. Let's ignore if NSO continues on to that. What do you think we'll have by the end of that? By the end of this Switch, what will NSO have?
I think Jake is thinking what I'm thinking.
Okay, so just to expand on that, the initial statement, the thing that I kind of grabbed from the president's statement was that there is kind of a little bit of a concern or a worry that there are customers who are going to let their subscriptions expire. So the idea is that they introduce new exciting content so that people re-up and you give them a reason to be like, hey, look what's here. Which I think makes sense. You know, I'm sure they have some analytics where it's like, okay, this is probably the right time to push something new so that people have to re-up. I'm sure they have that information. And I think we even saw something after the first year of it where it was like, oh, now we got a new console right at that time. But I have such a hard time getting excited for these services. And I feel like it's like listener, I love you, and you've probably heard this a million times, but it's like, oh, we got the virtual console. Hey, remember these 12 games you've played a million times? Jake, you love these 12 games. And I'm like, yeah, those are good games. Those were good games when I was 6. And it's legitimately starting to like bug me. And like, it's so annoying in a way that it's like, oh, okay, there are rumors we're gonna get Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, but Jake, they're not gonna be the games you want to play. Like, you're not gonna get Pokemon because that's against the rules. And I'm just sick of it. Like, I'm so sick of it. I just want to, like, Reggie actually put a statement out about this kind of recently, how he's a big believer in the all-you-can-eat buffet kind of service thing. And I just want to, like, pay this stupid subscription, go on this stupid app, and just go, wow, there are a dozen things here I want to play. Not like, oh, there's one thing I want to play and maybe it'll come out in a couple months. Like, I'm just over it. Like, I'm over it. And like, sorry to the like the older GameXplain crowd that might be listening to this, but I'm sick of like my daddy's games. I'm just sick of them. Like Andre's over here whining for Stunt Race FX like a crazy old head, and I'm like, Andre, Stunt Race FX? Who are you?
This is Jake's last video on games.
I'm just like, we don't play video games with rocks and sticks.
He's not that old.
But like, yeah, like games.
You're the worst, Jake.
Sorry.
But thank you for that.
Sorry.
That was great. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
I was just gonna say, why isn't there voice chat on the Switch? Good lord. Remember when that was the thing?
Because you need your mobile phone for that, Joey.
That is so dumb. Nintendo.
You want to call people?
I'm gonna say it, Nintendo. Get with the times.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that on their phone. if you could do it on the Switch. Fortnite does it on the Switch. What's your excuse?
The Wii U had like the weird like video chat feature. Like we know they've experimented with that kind of stuff.
How excited would you both be if out of nowhere they were like, here's a dozen 3DS games that we figured out how to put on the Switch?
I would be very
so happy.
I'd be impressed.
Can you imagine? Like, Metro. What was Samus Returns?
Yep.
Samus Returns. It's just there now. Like
That would be great.
Majora's Mask 3D, that version. That's like, it's just there now. The Mario Golf game from 3DS, just there.
Yes.
Steel Diver. Just
But there's just all this stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. It's like they're waiting for me to not care about it.
yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at like the upcoming lineup for like Nintendo 64 games, and I'm just like, I really don't care anymore. It is just like, I just want to be able to like buy my games like in the way Virtual Console did it. Like, that system was fine. Why did you have to get rid of it?
Especially with how long into the Switch's lifespan we are. Like, sure, halfway through or whatever, but we're still in, year 5/6. Like, at this point, every other service had like they were nearing the end of Virtual Console in general of what they were going to offer. Like the Wii U had DS titles for some ungodly reason. As weird as that still is to me, but like
it's so cool though.
It is actually really cool, but it's still that whole like why this? Why not put it Virtual Console to 3DS? But yeah, getting these titles would be great. And you mentioned 3DS. That leads into actually something I was talking about with a friend recently of how the late era of the 3DS totally overshadowed by the Switch because they tried keeping them together. Like there's so many 3DS titles that they released that underperformed because they released around the time or after the Switch came out. If they ported those, Samus Returns, the freaking Mario and Luigi games, like Mario Golf, like Mario Golf was a bit earlier, but there's so many games that if they ported or like made a new version or brought it to the Switch somehow, it would give those games a new chance at life. And they don't even need to like do like a Link's Awakening style remaster. Like if they could find a way to get those working and put them as like eShop only download titles or something related to NSO and they're like, the original 3DS game price, then there you go. That'd be great. It won't happen, but
we've seen Sony investing resources in these studios, like specifically these groups to specifically like be like, okay, we're gonna go through old stuff, we're gonna put stuff on PC, we're going to do all, and I just like it would be so cool for Nintendo to come out and say, hey, we don't even have anything right now, we have nothing, but we've built up this little studio here. And they're going to be committed to our legacy content and ushering that out. Like, how sick would that be? And it's just like, man, it's really weird because I feel like we can do it and we kind of make excuses for ourselves all. Remember the Ambassador games on 3DS, those GBA games that like never, I don't think they ever came out any other way.
No, they didn't.
Not on the 3DS at least, no.
And I swear to God, if that never happened, you would have people being like, "Oh, but how would you do it? Like you could, And I'm like, no, maybe they could just do it the whole time.
Especially,
honestly,
especially, look at Mario 3D All Stars. They put Mario Sunshine practically 1-to-1 on the Switch. We know they could put GameCube games on the Switch. Make the jump. You've never done GameCube Virtual Console all these years. That is your like surefire way to get people really invested in that and definitely paying for. Your subscription service, and they got access to those because getting those now are too pricey.
If a game company has billions of dollars, they can do it. I do not want to hear PlayStation 3 games can't run on PS5 ever again because they can.
Cell processor, dog. Cell processor.
Whatever. You can run a PS3 emulator on a weak CPU. I don't care what your excuse is. You got billions of dollars. Make it happen. Game streaming, don't do it. Yeah. I'm all riled up, everyone.
It was that comment about Sunrace FX.
Listen, to answer the original question, though, like if GameCube games do roll around at some point, that will get me excited. But I kind of feel a little bad because I kind of feel like I'm settling. I feel like I'm just like, that's like the next thing I should expect. And I'm giving them what they want. Just once I'd like to be like, wow, mildly blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I was gonna say maybe, since we know they put GameCube on, maybe that'll be, what we reach up to at the end.
Right.
Maybe we'll see them get experimental and port DS and 3DS titles in some fashion, kind of like they did with the Wii U. They may not have the double peripheral to it all, but they can find ways to make it work for some games and port the ones that they'd be able to do it for.
Yeah.
But I think we've been going for a while here. So any final closing thoughts from either of you guys? Any other Stunt Race FX comments?
Listen, nobody give Andre the time codes, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. He will. If nobody gets in the chat, if nobody in the comments is like, "Oh, Andre, look at this," like, we'll be fine.
That's the first. I already messaged him, so I'm just kidding. I told him, "Hey, this Jake guy just called you a dinosaur." So,
Alright, cool.
Alrighty. Well, I think that'll wrap up this discussion on what's next for the Switch, honestly. But if you guys have your own thoughts, or, if we put any ideas in your head from this conversation here, let us know down in the comments. I'd actually be very curious to hear what many of you think on this. This was a really fun discussion for all of us here, I think. But, of course, for all things Nintendo Switch and gaming in general, stay tuned to GameXplain for plenty more. Until next time, farewell everybody.